This is the room of secrets. Do you know what I speak of?
Now, soon after the last video I uploaded about Black Ops 3's impossible Easter egg, a lot of people have been hitting me up wanting an update of some sort. But I didn't want to just make a video straight away to ride the hype of the last video until I actually had some new findings. And now, after 3 weeks of pretty hardcore searching, we actually have some new leads. This sort of goes without saying, but if you haven't seen the first video, you're going to have to go watch that first, otherwise a lot of this is not going to make any sense. That will be linked down below. I also wanted to say a huge thank you for the overwhelming support on the last video. It's always a big boost when hard work actually pays off. But now I have your trust, I would really appreciate it if you did subscribe to the channel, because 99% of the people from that last video weren't subscribed. Now there's a bunch of new findings that we're going to be talking about here, as the intensity for this hunt has ramped up dramatically since I made that last video. And myself and a bunch of people in my Discord that are way more clever than me have been analysing these new leads really thoroughly. So a massive shout out to everyone on screen. They participated and put so much work into this video, and it wouldn't be possible without them. Now, after a few weeks of intense searching, there's a few things we're going to talk about. Initially, a good portion of our hunt was revolved around the unsolved cipher on the giant, because as I explained in my last video, it was really suspicious that this cipher had gone unsolved for so long and was on the same map as the Hypercube blueprint, which makes it even more suspicious that this giant one has still not been solved. And it made me think that maybe it wasn't that this was extremely heavily encrypted, it was more that we are missing some clues. One of the original issues with this cipher is the fact that we didn't know what the font was. Therefore, we couldn't distinguish between some of the letters. For example, lowercase l's and uppercase i's. For years, people thought that this font was most likely Oswald, but we discovered that the font is actually not Oswald, thanks to this legend in my Discord, Palasonic, who actually messaged the typographer who created the Oswald font. The creator explained that this is actually not Oswald and is actually Franklin Gothic font. This was super helpful because it allowed us to get the exact accurate transcription of the unsolved giant cipher. One thing about the giant cipher that was obvious but worth mentioning is that when you go to see it in game, it's actually flipped upside down. I have looked through every other single cipher in Call of Duty Zombies, and I couldn't find one single other example of a cipher that was intentionally flipped upside down like this one. It would be different if it was on the underside of the table or on a roof where there are multiple ways to view it, but it's not. The only possible way to view the cipher in-game is upside down, because it's on a vertical wall that the player faces. This seems really significant to me, and possibly another factor of why this cipher potentially hasn't been solved. I'm still trying multiple things, but a lot of my attempts right now revolve around reversing the text or trying to flip the values within a base 64 alphabet. Obviously this has been tried before, but not including the other missing parts we're about to talk about. The main thing I analyze within the cipher is the fact that the letters KN44 show up in the cipher multiple times. Now, if you know anything about cryptography, you're probably getting ready to call me an idiot, because this could easily be coincidence, as of course these letters would show up commonly. But what is not common is the fact that the first, second, and fourth line all contain the word KN44. Yet, the third line not only doesn't assemble the word at all, but it doesn't contain a single K, a single N, or a single 4, let alone 2 4s. Now, this could be a really rare coincidence, but just from a mathematical standpoint, the chances of this occurring in an encrypted message are extremely low. And more to that, something that people noticed years ago is that this cipher also contains the word 935, which on its own again seems like nothing more than a coincidence. But the fact that this 935 appears on the third line of text, the same line that happens to not include a K, an N, or a 4, is definitely weird to say the least. Also, this 935 sequence within the cipher is also the only time 4 numbers appear next to each other in a row in the whole cipher, which relative to the rest of the cipher is also weird. This makes me believe that the 935 within the cipher seems out of place and an anomaly. It's like it represents another key or an initializing vector. I try to take a logical approach with these Easter eggs, but I can't shake the feeling that there is something we have to do with that third line in the cipher. The probability of all these occurrences happening seems way too convenient to me. Now, to move our focus away from the giant cipher and talk about our new leads of the KN44 and the Hypercube directly, we're going to mention a couple things here that we've heavily examined, which includes one big thing that I think is a major lead. Firstly, a lot of people's ideas circulated around the theory that the KN44 locations needed to be mapped out across the map. This is similar to what Milo touched upon in his response video to my video. There are multiple ways this could be mapped out, such as mapping out the coordinates for every KN44 wall-by location within the maps, or mapping out every KN44 weird appearance within the map. With that, you could potentially connect points and reveal a hidden image or a message. Now, despite the amazing efforts of people in my Discord, as of yet, I don't think we've really found anything substantial here yet. This is something that I'm going to continue to investigate, but for now has been put on the back burner as I think there's more significant things to look into. Another big discovery has been made thanks to a Reddit post by Central and also AC Omega, who made a great video about Central's post. In his post, he highlights that in the Black Ops 3 campaign terminal, you can find a weapon index with the menu that shows an intel page of every Black Ops 3 weapon. Every weapon in this menu has a one short page description of its respective gun. What is really bizarre is that every page is the same except for the KN44 page. The KN44 page is actually noticeably larger than the other pages. It also has several links that you can click on that reveals even more pages of information. When clicking on one of these links, there is a page showing that details previous versions of the KN44 model, which has different names. The KN42A3 and the KN43A3. This is super interesting because not only do they give special treatment to the KN44 here by supplying us with tons of additional information, but it's also interesting because people forget Jason Blundell was not only head of Black Ops 3 Zombies, but he was also head of Black Ops 3 Campaigning, meaning he was directly involved with the placement of this information. Something I also missed in the original video I made when mentioning the potential significance of the KN57 from Black Ops 4 is that when Black Ops 4 launched, people did raise questions, why was this gun's name 57 when Black Ops 4 is a prequel to Black Ops 3 and takes place in 2040. People at the time assumed the numerical value within the gun name should have been less than the number 44, indicating a previous model of the weapon, because otherwise it sort of feels out of place, which potentially again indicates the significance of 57 within the KN57 name, which is the same case with these new KN42A3 and KN43A3 variants within the campaign terminal. Potentially these names are a piece of the puzzle when decoding the Hypercube. This is something again that seemed way too good to be coincidence. Why would they put all this extra effort into giving unnecessary detail about the KN44 and new names? We will be definitely investigating this further in the future. Of course, a lot of our focus in this hunt revolved around the Hypercube blueprint, analysing every part of it precisely. And thanks to Nanophage, who made these really clear diagrams of the constellations on the blueprint, we were able to get a good visual on these drawings and see if we could discover anything deeper and to see if it would match the other torn paper Easter eggs. But something that was right in front of us the whole time was the KN44 outline itself. The fact that the image doesn't just show the outline of the KN44 gun, but it's specifically a chalk outline, aka a wall buy. And because the blueprint is found on the Giant, I decided to go check the in-game wall buy location. This wall buy is located in the teleporter C room, and laid across the walls there are hexagon panels. Each of these panels have a weird string of numbering on them, and the KN44 wall buy is placed on one of these numbered panels. Now, of course, this isn't weird in itself, but the numbering on these panels do change. The last 4 digits of the number does increase from panel to panel. For example, this panel here in the KN44 wall buy ends in 5048, and this one below it is increased to the number 5077. Once again, this could just be an insignificant texture for whatever reason has a numbering system. But I was still curious, so I wanted to go back and see if these numbered panels also showed up on the original Doris. And they do. Both of World at War and Black Ops 1 Doris do have the numbered panels, but what is weird is that the numbers are different on the Giant. For some reason they have deliberately changed the numbers on these hexagon panels where the KN44 wall buy is located, which seems odd considering all the other textures are the same and have just been remastered to have better quality. It seems like this has been done with intent. I've tried to analyze these numbers, but there's so many variables in this string of code that it's hard to know where to start. Now we're going to talk about the discovery that I think is the most significant, and is what I've invested most of my time into. As I explained in my last video, a common misinterpretation people had about the impossible Easter egg is that it was exclusively on Shadows of Evil, which wasn't exactly true, but of course Shadows of Evil was involved as the KN-44 makes appearances across several maps. But it's understandable why people put emphasis on Shadows of Evil because of the way that questions were framed about the impossible Easter egg.
You mentioned kind of before the Shadows of Evil map came out, before he had even touched Black Ops 3 Zombies, that there would be an Easter egg included that none of us will find. It's not going to be solvable.
Yep.
You don't have any faith in us for that aspect.
Yep.
Has that Easter egg been found?
It has not.
It has not. So there is still something in Shadows of Evil in which
It would be too simple for me to say it's in Shadows of Evil, but I would say there is an Easter egg that has not been found. There's actually, there's lots. Right? We've already said that before, but the one
there's a significant one.
The one I was specifically talking about has not.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Which brings me to my next point, something that I missed entirely. We are all familiar with the ritual rooms on Shadows of Evil and the Apothicon drawings on the ground by the table. We always assumed that these summoning circles just resembled some satanic ritual drawing. But through my hunt, I realized what these summoning circles actually more accurately resemble is a flat 4-dimensional hypercube net. And to add to that, what is even more fascinating is that there is Apothicon language plotted across this net, which was instantly pretty exciting to me because I always thought that the whole concept of the Apothicon language in Black Ops 3 Zombies was really underutilized. Like, Blundell literally made a whole damn language that would have taken heaps of work to create, and we never really had any big secrets hidden behind this language. It was only ever used like as identifying symbols within the map, which is why I really think this is the perfect way Blundell implemented the Apothicon language in the most hidden way possible, and he tied it to the impossible Easter egg. I'm going to show you the translated Apothicon symbols that are attached to the summoning circle. This has been a fairly recent discovery, so I haven't tried a bunch of things with this yet. Apart from the basics like combining the first letter of each word into a sentence, or trying to decipher a message from the actual Apothicon words themselves. What I really think is the next step is finding a way to unfold this Hypercube net properly back into a 4-dimensional form and applying all these Apothicon words to each point on the Hypercube to allow us to decipher a message. Which is a concept that I sort of touched upon in my last video when I deciphered the symbols on the summoning key using the orientation of the Hypercube blueprint. Perhaps the language on the summoning key is also a key to the rest of the words in the summoning circle, or maybe it indicates what sides match up with each other in relations to the blueprint. This Hypercube net is where my focus currently lies, and I really believe this is the next step to the solve, which again is crazy because it's been right in front of us this whole time, and something that you just couldn't data mine, as Jason said. Lastly, during this mad hunt for the impossible Easter egg, we really inspected everything from top to bottom with precision, and we ended up going back down a bunch of other COD zombie rabbit holes, and a lot of them led to nothing, but we did end up finding something that is unrelated to the impossible Easter egg, but potentially a Black Ops 1 Zombies unsolved Easter egg that is 13 years old. So if you are interested in that as well, leave a like on the video and I'll bring you that video soon, and I'll keep you all updated with the impossible Easter egg as we get closer to solving this thing.